What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Copy Podcast. We are back with a Chelsea preview show. We might talk a little bit about Crystal Palace and Galatasaray as well, if we can. We'll try and fit it in because they weren't the best, were they? But before we get stuck into it all, I am Mick Moran as always, and I'm joined once again by Kristian Andersson. How are you doing, lad?
Yeah, good. We haven't done a pod for a while, so it's nice to talk now when we need a little bit of a therapy session, I guess, after 2 defeats, and then looking ahead to Saturday and Chelsea away, which is going to be a tough one, even though they haven't started, that well. So I'm thinking it's a good time to talk a little bit of what's going on and everything. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and let's start with the press conference because it did happen earlier today. Arne Slot was asked about Alisson, and of course the Galatasaray game. He goes down, and this seems to happen once a season with Alisson, where he goes down and puts his arm up, and you're like, there we go, he's out. He's out for another six. He's out for another 6 weeks. It was his birthday yesterday, so he just wanted a little barbecue and chill day, didn't he? Yesterday, clearly. But yeah. On a serious note, obviously, it's not great to have Alisson out for and after the international break in November, so he's going to miss like 8 games. I think he's going to be missing like Man City, Real Madrid. There's so many games in there where having Alisson in goal is sometimes the difference between winning and losing a game. So big shoes for Mamadashvili to fill, but a good opportunity for him to come in and we can see him properly for a run of games like we had to do with Keller over the last couple of seasons, and Keller was best number 2 in the league. So let's hope Mamadashvili can do something similar. On more lighter news or better news is Ekitike and Chiesa are going to train today. So hopefully they're ready, because I think when you factored in the 2 defeats we've just been talking about, the Palace and the Galatasaray one, we haven't got that many players in form. And if you had a list of top 5 people in form in our team, Ekitike and Chiesa would be in this. You need them at least in the team or in the squads to come off the bench and make an impact. So that's good news, isn't it? Obviously, because Ekitike as well, especially in that second half against Galatasaray, when he does lean to kind of control that pass, a rogue pass, you think, oh, for now, that's going to be another 4-weeker as well, or 6-weeker hamstring, but hopefully it's just a cramp and he can, even if he's fit just for the bench for tomorrow against Chelsea, then that would be, at least we have him available, because we, like I said, we need all the players we've informed that we can get at the moment, don't we?
Yeah, and first take on Alisson is just, obviously unlucky, and that pass from Konate is just, one of them where you get frustrated. You think of, it should be an easy pass and everything, but it happens, and it's, sad that Alisson is out like yearly for a period of time like this, with a hamstring. But it is what it is, and we have I think, in my opinion, a very good second goalkeeper that can actually step in and do a job. We've seen him just very, slightly against Southampton, but everyone says that he's something that for the future. So I'm not worried about him being the goalie. I'm more worried about how our defense has been playing lately in terms of Alisson having had to make so many great saves that he had. So hopefully we sort out the defensive problems that we have in the collective way that we play. Then we will be fine with Mamadashvili in goal, I guess. But good news about Ekitike obviously being all right. I think maybe on the bench, then it's good to have players like him and Chiesa available to have an impact, whether they start or if they come on from the bench. Chelsea away will be a tough one, so to have many players available to be able to mix things up if needed, it's just going to be good. But yeah, always sad with injuries, and obviously we already have Giovanni Leone out for a year or something like that, and obviously there's a few youth players now also out with injuries. I read about was it
Jayden Danns?
Jayden Danns, yeah, and also the new guy from Salford was out now for a couple of months as well with a knee injury. So it's not good signs. It's sad, but at least we got a squad for it. So let's use the people and players in form, and hopefully we can do something good from there.
Yeah, because when you look at Chelsea as well, like I think Palmer's out as well for a couple of weeks. So I mean, not being available for them is good news for us as well, because I mean, we do well against him. Like Curtis Jones having a really good game against him and marking him out of the game, and Jones was one of our best players that day. That was at Anfield, of course, but he's one of them players that can pop up with a moment of magic out of nothing. So, but even still, regardless, like I think they've think they've signed well. You look at the team; it is a bit mad when you look at their 11 because it's so different to because they evolve so quickly, don't they? Like in terms of they make so many signings and they just throw them all in. I guess like João Pedro, but there's quality in there. João Pedro's dangerous. We know Pedro Neto's dangerous. He's always a nightmare to play against. So Kerkez is going to have his work cut out on that left hand side, or Robbo, whoever Slot goes for. But yeah, so it's gonna be a tricky game. But before we get let's have a little talk about the Palace and the Galatasaray games because there's too much to talk about in terms of we'll be here for 4 hours if we talk about everything that went wrong. But just overarching like feelings on both. What are your feelings on how we've played in those games and what you think went wrong in them too?
I totally agree with what Arne Slot said on the press conference as well, that, Galatasaray game overall was better than the Crystal Palace one. Crystal Palace, the first half was, horrendous to watch. It was, the first half was something we haven't seen for a long, long time for a Liverpool team, even under Slot, and he's only been here over a year or a season. And obviously with Klopp, we had different periods of times where it didn't work for us and the game and the play didn't click for us. But I just felt like that way that we kind of let Crystal Palace without taking anything away from them, because I think they have been brilliant. Obviously their record of unbeaten games or whatever, it talks for itself. Or speaks for itself, or whatever you say, but it's more the thing that I think sometimes we let teams play us. We give them time on the ball. We give them time to turn in the right direction, to find to have players to actually look up and find passes into space and in dangerous areas. And we always been so good to close down players, to make sure that they're not turning around to be in the right direction with the ball, to make sure that they don't have time to control it and find those passes. And that's where I think we have to go back to. I know that we've been a little bit more balanced with Slot than with Klopp in terms of pressing and everything. But if you look last season, the way that Szoboszlai played in midfield, he's always pressing, making sure that we pushed on high up and didn't let the opposition, like I said, find their way of playing and have the time on the ball, which is crucial. I think that's where we have to go back to. So that's where I look at both games, really, Crystal Palace and the whole season, to be honest, but mostly Crystal Palace and Galatasaray. Galatasaray was better, but obviously that was ruined by a referee that just kept on blowing the whistle all the time for everything, so you couldn't get any rhythm. But Crystal Palace was more like, they do great if they have time on the ball. And we know that most teams in the Premier League or in Europe, obviously, will do great if they have time on the ball. So it's more up to us to find our way of playing in terms of pressing and being aggressive, but also try to find the balance in defensive play and also the creativity and movement offensively. And it sounds like it's something, it should be easy, but it needs to be a rhythm. There's new players in the team and everything. So slowly but steady, I hope we get there, but I'd rather get there sooner than later in terms of how we now play and everything that has come with it. So
yeah, I think the worrying thing for me is it's that in the last two games we seem to be easy to play against, like low block. We'll pass it around nice and slowly. They'll just it's like we're trying to draw the opposition out, but they're not going to budge. They're just happy to sit in. So it's then trying to find the right passes, and especially in the Galatasaray game, like we were treating the ball like it was a hot spud. Like we were just like, it seemed like everyone's second touch was a tackle. Like it seemed like passes were off, like balls over the top just weren't connecting. And I think that's just obviously a disjoint because loads of new players. First and foremost, we're playing Szoboszlai at right back. Then we're playing Frimpong in Salah's position to give Salah a bit of a break because Salah's not firing at the minute. So there's loads of little pitfalls there about why we're not completely in our zone, and especially last season when you think we won the Premier League and we only brought in Chiesa, that was probably because it was more continuity from the previous season where we could just crack on as normal. We knew we had a boss team. We could go and win the Premier League, and we can play the virtually similar way, but with more control, like you said, from the change from Klopp to Slot. But as well, I think when you look back to the start of the season, obviously the Diogo Jota stuff, which was just absolutely horrific. I remember, like, I think I said on one of these, we both said on one of these pods, like, we've got no expectations for this season because for players to have to go through something like that is absolutely horrific, and you shouldn't have to. Players lost a mate, they lost a teammate, they lost, like, just absolutely horrendous. And obviously the family obviously feel it the most. Like, the players is minuscule in comparison to the Diogo's mum and dad and his wife and kids and all that stuff. But the players have still lost a teammate as well, and I think that's something that maybe in the games we've been winning them late, which has been boss for me because I've been able to do the Baywatch videos, just throwing the Baywatch tune over every game. I think I've done 5 in a row, which was just fun, class. I'd be in the pub after the game having a Guinness, and I'd be like, clap me, let's
Yeah.
get the Baywatch video sorted. So
I think I said something about you completed the series already. Like, you've done 5 episodes of them. It's done. You don't have to do more.
Series 2 needs to start soon. But yeah, I think maybe, I don't want to say papered over the cracks, but like scoring late and maybe conceding quite a few goals and all that stuff, but still getting over the line. Again, like, you can't keep doing that. So I guess that we kind of saw it come to fruition in the last 2 games. But I just love the way opposition fans are like, oh yeah, this is the end of Liverpool. Like, not like loads of new players, and do you know what I mean? It's the jumping on while Liverpool bad equals good interactions, isn't it? As always. I'm trying not to talk about Twitter because that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
but again, like we said, so many players, so many good players in there. Vert, who's obviously getting loads of flack as well, and I just think, yeah, Isak, who's not had a pre-season, like, once it starts to click together, and obviously time will tell exactly. Like, we'll know after the next couple of months, like, where if we're in a position where we're still top of the league, Vert and Isak have clicked completely, Ekatike still firing, Kerkez and Frimpong are fully embedded, Alisson's back in the team, all those stuff,
yeah.
and Salah's back and scoring goals, creating stuff. Then we'll know if we're still in a similar position come January again, or late December. I guess that's when we can start to worry that it's not just a blip anymore. If we're still struggling or having to rely on last minute goals, then it's obviously more of something that Slot needs to fix. But I wouldn't. The thing for me is I wouldn't trust anybody else in world football to be able to get this right, because we saw last season Arne Slot's a tactical genius. Like, he knows exactly what Liverpool need to do. He's just having to navigate a myriad of new stuff with new players and new systems, trying to fit people into different positions. Obviously, I was like going right back and trying to play with a 10, like a specialist 10 in Florian Wirtz. You've got to try and fit him in the team. So we just got to find a way to maximise those things. But you wouldn't trust anyone else rather than Arne Slot, would you? He's the perfect man to fix this, isn't he?
Yeah, I totally trust him, and there's nothing in me that even consider him being something that we can't keep for the future. Whatever, he won the league in his first season. I'm not going to turn my back on him for a long time. It needs to be loads of bad Man United things going on for that to happen. To be honest, like, just look at them down the road. How they are doing with manager, and they already swap managers recently in one way and might do it again and all that. So where we are with Slot is fine. I agree with what you say. It's several new players that comes into a system where they need to find their places. It's different expectations on them as well in terms of where they are playing, without saying, we're the biggest, the best, but playing for Liverpool, it's another step up in terms of all that kind of thing, especially when you are the champions and you usually go far in Europe and everything. It just comes with a job, and some players takes a little bit longer to adjust to that. Just look at, Fabinho and Robertson when they arrived. It took months, maybe half a year for them to settle properly in the team and start providing what they could for us. And I also think what you brought up about Diogo Jota is one thing that we can never forget about. That we can have our expectations, we can have our demands on the players and the team and Slot, and as a club, as a professional thing, we go into games, try to win them, but we can never forget that that's still very recent. It's not long ago that happened, and like you said, they gone through grief. They've been to teammates in a very good friend's funeral. They had to deal with this in different ways. So whatever happens this season, it's not an excuse. It's more a human way of looking at it and thinking, okay, they've been through hell in terms of what they had to deal with as friends to a player that they saw every day in training, played with, celebrated with, had a very close relationship with, pass away in such a horrific way with his brother, and how that affected, his family and their family and everyone else connected to Liverpool. So we can never forget that. I just want to say that whatever happens, we sometimes have to take a step back if we are frustrated with a team. You just be like, okay, it's still very um, recent that happened, so we just have to be human in a way of looking at it. But then we also have to, I hate to say it, but we also have to think about the way that I think some have said on Twitter, that we we can't underestimate actually the creativity and the pass that Trent used to provide for us on that right hand side. We can think about Trent what we like, but the way that he passed the ball and switched play and found those spaces, like passes into right spaces where people could just get the ball on their feet and actually just go with it, like Salah, for example, or he can find the left hand side with Gakpo or Diaz with a crossing that turned and made space for us, to turn the game for us in that way. You switch play. I hope that's gonna change. Obviously, with we know what Bradley can do. We can see what Frimpong has. He just need to find his way a bit. But that's also an aspect of it that we need to understand, that when you replace someone that's been so influential on our way of playing, it's not going to happen overnight just like that. We hope it can, but it might not do that. And the same with Wirtz, in my opinion. You can tell that that kid has so much talent and he's a quality player, but it will take a little bit of time maybe for him to adjust to the pace and physicality of the Premier League. You can see that. But as soon as we've already seen pass that he passed, like now against Galatasaray, he found Isak, with two nice passes just over the top, which was brilliant. When that comes into more of a rhythm and he's more up to speed with everything, I'm sure they will provide assists and goals, in every second game all the time, and be very influential. And I'm not worried. I just hope that Slot can find a way for us to be more safe defensively, because I think we've been quite, in shambles when it comes to the defensive part of it. Like, we haven't been good. Konate's been out of form. Even Van Dijk, even if he's been very strong in games, he's the captain who should try to keep it all together and be the leader. I don't think that has happened really. Kirk is new as well. So there's many aspects of it, but still we got the points and we got over the line in many games. Now we felt 2 defeats and we don't like it because we're not used to it. So let's try to find a new way and just keep on going to find that form and go from there. And I think it will be all right.
Yeah, there's plenty for. Like I said, I wouldn't trust anyone else apart from Arne Slot, and he earns the big bucks and he's a genius. So let's put the trust in him to sort it out, because I'm sure he will. But even still, that's like sitting pretty at the top of the Premier League. Obviously losing 2 games in a row, but we still are 3 points clear at the top of the league. And the thing is, what I don't like about modern football is people are now taking like stock in what the league table looks like after 6 games. Do you know what I mean? Like like the top 4 is us, Palace, Tottenham, and Sunderland. Do you know what I mean? That's not going to be what it is in 32 games time. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be nowhere near that. There's always a team that does well start of the season. Like Everton have had a few, and other teams have had a good spell where they're up at the top over the last 20 years or more. So I mean, we can be happy that we're top of the league, but again, Liverpool, like, to win 5 and have only lost 1 in this period, and we know how good Palace are. They've proved how good they are. And we just didn't turn up that day. I think if
we did the same last season. Like,
Exactly.
Forest was one of them, and everyone's
Exactly.
like, yeah, like, go from there. Sorry to interrupt, but it's just one of them where we won a couple of games and then we lost that one, and we were like, oh, come on. But we went from there, and it turned out to be great. So
Yeah, I think you've got to look at it as though it's. I mean, if it was Palace in isolation and we get over the line against Galatasaray, you can go, right, let's fix the Palace game going into the next one and get some confidence from the Galatasaray game, which we didn't, and then you go into the next one. But the fact that it's 2 in a row, you're hoping it's more of like a line in the sand. Like, there's another international break coming up, and that doesn't. I mean,
yeah,
the last one didn't help us because we were informed. This one might help because Alisson's out, so you give us a bit more. You give a bit more chance to get players.
yeah.
Specialized treatment to get players fit. You can work on stuff in training, and all those different little bits. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about Chelsea a little bit then, because we mentioned before that.
I just want to add that, like you said, in form when it comes to that as well. We play Crystal Palace away, we play Galatasaray away, and it doesn't help that we have to go away again. Again, I don't say that's something
Yeah,
you should use as an excuse, but when you're not in form and you try to find that form,
you need a
it's
home
always
game.
easy to come back
Yeah,
to Anfield and just have the crowd and everything going from there. But to go to Chelsea now, obviously, it's a tough one because of the two games that we come from. It could have been a different story in terms of how you think going into Chelsea if you won against Palace and say you drew against the Galatasaray away and you got the point in Europe or even won it, then you go in with a different mindset to Chelsea, even if it's away. But now when you're trying to find that rhythm and form, that's a tough one because you haven't been home for a while. So, and then we have an international break before we play United at home, I think. So it's just one of them where I feel this game might be very important for us going forward because of where we are and where we need to be very shortly.
yeah. And when you look at the last game, obviously that everyone's mind was on Ibiza when we last played them last season at Stamford Bridge. Obviously, the season was done. Everyone was in party town. It's a bit different now because start of
Us
the
as
season.
well. Us as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, everyone was just. I mean, remember the Allison interview where he was like, "I'm sick of partying." Like, what a sentence that is to say. I'm
Yeah.
bored of partying. Like,
Yeah.
just class.
I would never.
But let's hope we're doing something similar in 30 odd games time at the end of May. But yeah, like Chelsea, like let's talk about them a little bit because we mentioned Palmer is injured, and you look at their team, and it is like I mentioned as well. It's loads different than in the recent seasons. There's João Pedro in there. There's Estevao, who've been playing on the right wing. They've got Gittins in Dortmund. They've got loads of quality in there. And it's about, I mean, and especially as well, like to link into what we were saying before a little bit, like even if we would have if we would have beat Palace and Galatasaray, I'd still be going into this game away to Chelsea thinking this is going to be a tricky one, and it's going to be not you're going to accept a draw, but if it's a draw, you're like, well, it's not too bad because it's Chelsea away and they've got dangerous players on the counter attack, and that's kind of what I imagine. I'm hoping that they're going to come out and try and press us high, and we can go, and we can play through them and stuff. It's only if they set up in a similar way to the last two games where I was going to say create an atmosphere, but that doesn't happen at Stamford Bridge, so we're fine about that. But like set up in a way where, yeah, they can expose us with the pace on the counter attack because João Pedro is a Bobby-esque, I'd say, number 9 when he drops in, great feet, can score a goal. Pedro Neto is rapid if they play Gittins on the other side. They've got Garnacho as well, who I completely forgot about, who can, if he comes in and plays off the left, he's pacey, he's going to be diving all over the gaff like Osimhen in the last game. So you've got to factor all those things into it. But yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult game, isn't it? Like, I mean, especially with international breaks coming up, and I think it's one of them where if we can get over that, like if we get through this one and we say we win 2-1 or whatever, the last two games obviously don't disappear, they don't evaporate, but you can kind of go, right, we've drawn a line in the sand through them. If we turn up and even if we don't play great, but we're resilient, like all the stuff you were mentioning, which we weren't in the last few games, defensively solid, just not being able to pass the ball 5 yards, not being able to find a man, just confidence looks a bit shot. Didn't look like we knew exactly where players were playing. You could throw a blanket over some of the midfielders in terms of like we're so narrow in some of the games. If we sort all those things out and we're defensively resilient and we get a result, you can go, right, now we can build on that. And obviously going away to Chelsea and beating them is, like I said, even if we were in good form, it's a tough place to go. And if we beat them, it'll be a great result.
Yeah, and I know that they have quite many injuries to players, that are very important to them. You mentioned Palmer there, obviously, but they still got Caicedo and Fernandes in midfield, and if they have a good day, they are brilliant. The same goes with, like you mentioned, Neto as well, and I think where he's one of them where you could have looked at him coming to Liverpool and play because I really liked him before. Before he went to Chelsea, and you can tell that he's just kept on developing. So he's a very good player. And if Chelsea has a good day, they are good, especially at home. But the thing is, you can't really tell yet, and you haven't been able to tell with Chelsea for a couple of seasons now what you will get from them. They can be brilliant on the day, and they can be really, really bad. And I think they have started in that way this season as well. So the thing is, we can go to Stamford Bridge, and we can if we have our day, and we know that we, despite having so many new players and still trying to find a way, we have the quality in a different way, I would say. But it's against them away, and if they have a good day, they have the quality to beat any team as well. So it's a very difficult one. I feel like there's an opportunity there, but it's also a feeling of, because of where we're coming from with the 2 defeats, that it could be something that really, I wouldn't say kill us, but really makes us think when we go into the international breaks of what's going on here. Because I wouldn't say 3 games in a row that is a loss or a defeat would be the world's biggest thing, but it's just a feeling where we are. I think that's the thing. You need
It
to
would be,
find this
yeah, I think,
balance now.
yeah, sorry, I think 3 is a bit more of a pattern, isn't it? Like if
Yeah,
you do go there and we lose, you're like there is bit like if we win, you can not, like I said before, not brush it away, but you can say draw a line there, let's crack on. If it's 3, like, well, there's some maybe like underlying issues in terms of what we need to like fix going forward.
yeah.
Like that's all that stuff that obviously on social media, which I try and stay off now. That just gets amped up to another level, doesn't it? Because people then start saying, "Oh, Liverpool are in major crisis," and all the usual media stuff as well.
Yeah, and I think it's the way that we lost the 2 last games, like Crystal Palace, obviously in the last minute, in that way that it turned out to be, with a defensive error in one way, and a long throw, and a really bad defensive situation in different steps, I would say as well. So we lost that game where we should have not really. It happens, but you can look at it. It was not like we lost 2-3-0 and we were shit in the first half. We were so much better in the second half. So it was a game with properly 2 halves that would look very different. I would have been more worried if it was 2-3-0 to Crystal Palace, and it could have been obviously first half, but if it was, and then Galatasaray as well, it's a very, very soft penalty, and we couldn't find a way even if we tried. It's more a question of, say Isak's not being in form and he's get his chances, but he's not, he's rusty and he's not really there yet. Otherwise, I think it could have been like maybe 1-1 or whatever, and all that. So it's not games that we lost that's been like, oh, okay, they've been so much better and we lost with margins like 2-3-0. Then I would have been more worried. But at the moment, we're actually in a position where we could have come away with something from both games, Crystal Palace and Galatasaray. So that's why I feel like if we go into Chelsea, if we would lose, say 1-0, 2-1, it's more of a pattern, yes, but it's still not the worry as if teams could find a way to score many goals. So we just fell apart and they scored 2-3. Then I would start to be like, we can't keep on doing this, because we're so dependent, and we know how our defensive skills have been, the last couple of seasons, even in the Jurgen Klopp with Van Dijk. We always say, he could run that, defensive line by himself, just being the last man. So I'm thinking, I want to go into this game with the belief that we can turn things around, but I wouldn't be worried if we didn't win without, having an excuse or whatever. I just want to see us finding our feet better and being more stable in the games, and find words more, and actually try to play the way that we know that we can with, for example, Salah and whatever Ekitike or Isak is starting to just make sure that we start to see our own game pattern, the way we know that these players can play for us. Then I can go in with a belief into the international break, even if we lose, but we see the signs of things happening. And then we obviously got United at home, where it could be a turning point in that way. So I want to win against Chelsea, obviously, but I wouldn't be that much worried if it didn't happen, except if we were losing with several goals, obviously, and we just didn't find any way. I want to see us finding the way, and if that helps us win, that's absolutely boss. But if we would lose, but I still see that we got the creativity back, we got the runnings, in behind, we find the passes. That's what I want now, and make us hopefully win games, go forward, more stabilized, and more in a way that we know Liverpool can do with 2-3 goals, because we are that good that we should be able to do that, especially at home.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I am interested obviously to see what Liverpool set up like. I think we're still going to be attacking, but I think there will be maybe more of an emphasis on. I'm sure Van Dijk will be saying we've got to be better in terms of, if we get turned round and there's a counter attack, you've got to be sprinting back. But like the amount of 50-50s we've been losing has been annoying me as well. Like just people like kind of letting the ball bounce and not going in fully for it. And, just little stuff like that where, especially in Europe, you can't go in too crazy because obviously, like you said, the referee was just on one. Leandro Trossard's evil twin. He was just absolutely on one all game. So you can't go OTT in those type of games. But just, showing the grit, fight, determination, all that stuff. I don't think the running stats are bad for us. I think we're still near the top in that regard. But in terms of like duels and winning ground use and stuff like that, especially when you come up against, like you mentioned, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, I imagine Lavia will probably be in there as well at some point in the game. They're all good at that stuff, and they're all combative, and they're all going to want to fight for the ball. So if you don't match that, that's going to be a difficult game for you, especially in that midfield area where they're all Caicedo and Fernandez, £100 million players, and they are world class. I would say so. You've got to be able to match that. All right then. Well, that leads us on to the best time of the day score prediction, and I think we all know what you're going to go for, lad. So let's just hear it.
I'm constant going 3-1 Liverpool, whether it's at home or away nowadays. I just go with it, and hopefully it will be someday, or just 3-0. I'd rather take that, but it just feels like where we are at the moment, we do concede at least one goal. But I'm happy to see that change. I'm happy to not earning points in that WhatsApp group table when it comes to the end of the season, if that means we're winning 3-0. But yeah, 3-1, I'll just say 3-1 and hope that can happen, because that means we got the 3 points.
Exactly. I think I went for 2-1 in the group. I think I'll have to double check that. But yeah, I think I went for 2-1 because I'm just hoping it's a little mini. If the 2 games we've lost are a mini blip, then this can be a mini turning point. And I think, like I mentioned, emphasis. Let me get my teeth in, fuck's sake. An emphasis on like the defensive side and like being more structured, and also if we can, like you say, get Vert into the game, getting Ekitike Isak in the game, getting Salah in the game more, get Gakpo in the game more. Let's see Gakpo using the overlap of Kirkes a bit more. That's something that we can probably do a whole show on. Exactly. Never get used, but we'll leave that for another day. We want to see those players in those areas and creating loads of havoc, and hopefully with Palmer missing, they're a little bit lesser on the day, so we can hopefully take advantage of that.
In terms of starting 11, what's your thought then? Just to now when we got some injuries.
Good points. Yeah, obviously we're going to see Mamardashvili, aren't we? I think for me, see, after the game, after the Galatasaray game, I was like, let's change the whole 11 for Chelsea. I was like, don't let none of them are starting the next game. But I was thinking initially, I was like, get Kanate, I'll put Gomez in, but I still think. I think what Slot's going to do is he's going to go Mamardashvili, he's going to go Bradley. I think Bradley, Van Dijk, Kanate. I think he'll go Kirkes again just for
play them in form,
engine up and down. And I think the pace, because if he's coming up against Neto, I think Kirkes has got a better chance of stopping Neto than Andy Robertson has in terms of pace and then
could be dangerous though with his late tackles and coming.
I know but I think it's something that he needs to fix. But I think he only fixes it by having those games to kind of have those opportunities come up in game, and he fixes them and rectifies them in game. So he can only do it by showing us on the pitch. So if he can, I mean, those little dive-ins he does do work sometimes, but he does do them a little bit too often.
I think, sorry to interrupt there, I'm just going to say quick on Konate as well. I think he starts because first and foremost, he's a good player. He just haven't had his best time recently. But you also have to play some players into form, like keep believing in them and keep them giving them game time, because that's where you find, especially when you got Van Dijk, Konate, you don't want to interrupt that too much. I know Gomez can come in or other players can play there, but if them two raise the bar, they are 2 of the best defenders in the world, and obviously one of the best defensive pair in the league as well. So you just keep on going and hope they will, find that bar and raise it. That's the thing. I think that's why you don't want to mix it up too much in those areas.
Yeah, I think that the only difficulty is midfield. I think a little bit because it looks like McAllister's still, for me, I think he's still, I mean, if you look at last season, he's one of our key players because he's combative, he's good on the ball, and he very rarely loses it.
Score fucking screamers as well.
Score screamers, yeah. But it just looks like he's been a bit space jammed. I think that's been used quite a lot on Twitter recently, which I'm a big fan of. The word space jammed. Bring that, get that into the dictionary more. Let's start using space jam more. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know what Slott's going to do because I think Jones always gets grief online, but
Yeah.
I think he's been okay. I think he's been okay. I think he keeps the ball well. There is times still where he does too many touches and he gets tackled, and then he has to against Galatasaray. He has to make
Yeah.
a last ditch saving tackle. But I think in general he keeps the ball well. He keeps us ticking over. He's usually a safe pair of feet in terms of like he can keep the ball. Gravenberch obviously starts. You see Salah back in. I think he goes Gakpo. I think he goes. I think Isak's still on the bench because, like we said, he's still not 100%, still a bit rusty. We see Ekatike and we see Florian Wirtz. The only question for me is if we see McAllister or if we see Curtis Jones, and then yeah, just again, it's difficult because then where does Szoboszlai fit in? Because obviously in the last game he was right back, but I just think, I mean, I want to see Bradley at right back because I want, like you mentioned before, the Szoboszlai running ability. He runs the same as two people, so it's if everything's working and everything's clicking, everything's on song, he's worth 1.5 people in terms of like work rate. I
Yeah.
think so. I think getting him in those areas, whether you're playing more reserved or, I mean, we've seen Gravenberch this season. The season before he was just a 6 and he was sat there, but this season we're seeing him get forward and we're seeing those. Oh, if Gravenberch is going forward, Szoboszlai will just tuck in, or McAllister will just tuck in and take that space, and you work it out in game a little bit more rather than it being a bit more rigid. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of, the thing is there's options. There's loads of options there for Slot. I think we saw it in the last game where he's putting Szoboszlai right back, Frimpong right wing. That's just like more of a, is it the trial this, see if this works, see if this gets the best out of X, Y, and Z players, and it's all a bit of an experiment still because it's still early days. But
Mhm.
I would like us to go a little bit more tried and tested in terms of get Szoboszlai back in midfield, put Bradley at right back because he's got pace as well. I think you have Bradley and Kirk as your fullbacks. You've got pace. You've got combative natures. You've got people who can throw in a tackle. They can do all the things that you want them to do. It's just,
Yeah.
again, like what Slot mentions again today, like Bradley, like coming back from injury, Frimpong coming back from injury, all those like new players, and then if players are getting injuries as well, it's then trying to figure out, oh, are you at peak time to come in and play 60, and then you're trying to shoehorn players. Oh, you play 30, but you play 60 this game. And it's just like, whereas last season we had more of a set team. We had like a set, basically 14, didn't we? We knew we was going to be playing pretty much every game. Whereas now
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out who's going to go where. And I think that is good in the long run, especially if we start playing better and we've got more options. And if you're switching players out and you don't feel the effect of switching players around, then that's obviously the best way you can win football games. But I don't know. Without blabbering on too much, what do you reckon? Give us your team, lad.
Well, I'm thinking it is a difficult one because, like you said, with Bradley coming back from injury, you don't want to put too much pressure on him too quickly. It might be that Szoboszlai starts again at the right back just to make sure that we got someone, that is not at the moment have a injury like history just behind him, just to make sure that we don't do anything stupid, especially now going into an international break, and we give hopefully players that can time to recover properly. And it's also the midfield question. I'll probably say, I would like Soboslai to play in there because I think we need him in some games for his running and, the powerhouse that he is. But it's also, a question of having Gravenberch maybe more balanced role, like you said as well. I like him going forward because he got a threat, but he already scored and, scored twice really, as well. But it's also in games like against Chelsea away where you think like maybe, step back a little bit and then use someone like Szoboszlai in that area just in front of him to be able to cover a lot of space. But then you're going to have to get like Wirtz in there as well, because I agree with you. McAllister, I love him and I want him to play every game because he's also an engine with a creativity, foot and everything and a goal in him. But I think also he's been, with the injuries and everything that he had, taken a bit of time. So it is a difficult one, especially also that we don't know about Ekitike if he's actually fully fit for tomorrow.
No,
It depends, and Chiesa as
exactly.
well. So it might be that Isak starts, or we even play someone like Wirtz in a false nine role, like him and Soboslai, like we did against Man City last season. That we don't actually have a proper striker. We play more of a, with Salah and
2 false nines, yeah.
Gakpo coming in from the wings more central, but then we got like Wirtz and Soboslai who can go forward, but comes more deep, and we play that way. So it is tough when you don't know the status of players, because, like you said, you can't just say a set team because of we don't know how they are tomorrow and the status of them. But at least if we get the, like I said, the engines in there, I want Soboslai in some part of the team, like somewhere on the pitch, because we need him.
You
If
can't
that's
have them out. Yeah.
right back or in central midfield somewhere, that's for me. But then obviously, I'll be if Ekitike had cramp and that's the case, he probably starts. This should be fine. But if there's any kind of, because obviously he's been picked for the French national team as well. But if there's any risk of him, tearing something like a muscle, if there's something that is not right, I'd rather than go start with Isak and then change it up a bit afterwards, even if Ekitike doesn't come on, just to prevent an injury. So it is a difficult one, but Salah to the right, Gakpo to the left, Wirtz as a number 10, and then it depends on if we have a striker that we will use, or like I said, if Soboslai goes into midfield or if he goes into the right back. So we'll see. But other from that, I think we see the same, like obviously with Mamach really coming in. The Kirkus, Konate, Van Dijk, Gravenberch just holding midfielder. And the others, we will see a bit what happens depending on the status of the players.
It's just like pieces of a jigsaw, and you're trying to like fit them in. But it's difficult. But again, Arne Slot earns the big bucks, and he is the man to hopefully turn this little blip around, and we can crack on and hopefully beat Chelsea. All right, lad. Well, we'll leave it there because we've done the score predictions the wrong way around there, but we usually do them at the end. But I guess it's better to do score prediction first and then 11s after, because 11s is a bit more interesting than what we think. But we always get predictions wrong anyway. Who gets predictions right? But yeah, nice one, lad, for jumping on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, nice one. Nice to talk Liverpool again. So let's do it soon again.
Yeah, well, this is the start of us doing them more again, like, because it's I've been slacking as well, even on like the pod and the pint shows. It's one of them. Life gets in the way sometimes, but anytime we can jump on to talk about the Reds is a good time. So yeah, nice one to Kristian for jumping on. Nice one everyone for watching or listening. Really appreciate every one of yous, and yeah, we'll see yous on the next one. Ta-ra.